So let's just jump right in. We're living in this world where all the old guidebooks, the traditions, the beliefs that nobody ever questioned, they're kind of losing their grip. And that leaves us with a huge question. What do we do now? How are you supposed to navigate your life when the fundamental rules you were handed just don't seem to apply anymore? That's the challenge we're going to tackle today. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche saw this coming over 100 years ago. He basically said, look, the foundations of everything we believe are cracking. But for him, this wasn't just some big crisis. It was an incredible opportunity. If all the old dogmas, these fixed, unshakable rules from religion and morality, if they're on their last breath, well, that means we're finally free. But it also means we're responsible for creating our own values. Okay, but before you can build something new, you have to clear the ground. And that means you've got to be willing to take a sledgehammer to some of your most deeply held assumptions. So, the first step on this path isn't really about finding answers at all. It's about learning to ask the right and maybe pretty uncomfortable questions. Let's start with the biggest one of all, truth. We're all taught to search for the truth, right? But Nietzsche just throws that whole idea into question. He actually called the belief that truth is somehow better than appearance a moral prejudice. He said it might be the worst proved assumption in the world. So, what if all we really have is our perspective? What if the search for one single, absolute truth is just sending us on a wild goose chase?
And what about the person asking these questions? That solid feeling of I that feels like it's in the driver's seat? Nietzsche would say that's another superstition. He made this amazing point. A thought comes when it wants to, not when I want it to. And that kind of reveals that we aren't the sole commanders of our own minds. The I is more like a busy town square where thoughts and feelings just show up, not some king sitting on a throne giving orders.
So, if we start picking apart the idea of I, it pretty naturally leads us to question another massive assumption, free will. I mean, if the I isn't really in charge of our thoughts, then how can it be totally in charge of our actions? Are we actually free to choose? Or is that feeling of freedom maybe just a part of the story we tell ourselves? For Nietzsche, free will was basically a myth. When you will something, it's not one simple act. It's this whole complex thing. A mix of physical sensations, the main thought in your head, and, this is the key part, the feeling of being in command. That feeling of, I am free and things must obey me, is powerful for sure, but it doesn't prove we have some special power outside the laws of cause and effect. It's really just about strong and weak wills clashing in the world. Okay, so if Nietzsche comes in and shatters all our certainties about the outside world, where do we go from there? Well, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius points us in a totally new direction, inward. He asks this deeply personal, deeply practical question. It's not about what's true in some abstract sense anymore. It's about the state of your inner world, right here, right now. This is the big pivot point, from tearing things down to building something up. So, if the external world of rules and dogma is gone, the only reliable place left to build is inside yourself. This is where we shift gears completely. We're moving from demolition to construction. This is all about creating an inner life that's so strong, so resilient, that it can handle the chaos of a world that doesn't have any rules. And what's amazing is that both Nietzsche and the Stoics arrived at the exact same idea. Nietzsche wrote that a truly strong person strives instinctively for a citadel. For the Stoics, this was literally the core of their entire philosophy, building a mental fortress where your peace of mind is untouchable, no matter what life decides to throw at you. And the walls of that fortress, they're made of your judgments, your principles, and your reason. Now, it's really fascinating to see how different traditions think about this inner power. In the West, the Stoics talked about logos, this rational, universal principle that orders everything. It's a top-down approach. You use your reason to understand and align with this cosmic order. But in Eastern traditions, like yoga, they talk about kundalini, this coiled, creative, primordial energy that's already inside you. That's a bottom-up approach. You don't reason with it. You awaken it through practice and direct experience. The power isn't out there. It's in you, just waiting to be unlocked. Eastern paths often use this beautiful metaphor of untying knots. The idea is that our conditioning, our fears, our hang-ups, these are all knots inside of us. They block our energy. So spiritual practice, or sadhana, is basically the methodical process of first seeing these knots, then gently, patiently untangling them to release the power that was trapped. Okay, so we've looked at tearing down old ideas, and we've looked at the frameworks for building inner strength. But how does any of this actually work in our day-to-day lives? How do you take this from being a cool idea to something you actually practice? Let's get into the actionable stuff. The ultimate goal for a Stoic was never to be an emotionless robot. The goal was apatheia, and it is so important to get this right. It does not mean apathy. It's a state of deep calm and tranquility that comes from seeing things clearly for what they really are, without piling on all our own drama and fear and stories. It's a peace that's born from clarity, not from suppressing your feelings. Zen Buddhism gives us another, totally different path to a very similar state of mind. Instead of focusing on logic and rational thought, Zen is all about total absorption in whatever you're doing right now. So whether you're walking or eating a meal or just breathing, the goal is to be 100% there. Peace isn't found by analyzing the world. It's found by dissolving into the simple reality of this moment. And this really gets to the heart of the Zen way. That constant anxiety to always get somewhere, to achieve the next thing, to fix everything, to control the outcome, that is the root of so much of our stress. The whole practice is about realizing that life isn't a problem you need to solve. It's a reality you get to experience, right here, right now. So here's what that looks like in a super practical way, a blueprint from the Stoics. In the morning, you think about the annoying people or frustrating situations you might run into, and you prepare your mind. Then, all day long, you focus only on what you can control, your own judgment and your own actions. And at night, you look back on your day, not to beat yourself up, but to learn. It's a complete operating system for living with purpose. All right, let's boil all of this down to its most powerful, most essential form. We've torn down the old rules. Now it's time to build a new code. A code that isn't based on what you believe or what your opinions are, but on what you do in every single moment. This one simple line from the Stoic Seneca it's just revolutionary. It totally reframes how we think about success. We're all obsessed with results, right? But results are decided by fortune, by luck, by things outside our control. The Stoic says, forget about that. Focus only on the beginning, on your intention, your effort, your action, because that's the only thing that is truly 100% yours. Marcus Aurelius gives us this brilliant 3-part rule for life. Part 1 is this, the discipline of perception. It means seeing things as they actually are, without adding your own spin. You know, someone cuts you off in traffic. That's a fact. That jerk disrespected me and ruined my morning. That's a story you just added. Seeing that difference is everything. Part 2 is the discipline of action. The idea here is that since we're all in this together, part of a human community, the right action is always one that helps the common good. It's about asking yourself, is this kind? Is this helpful? Is this the right thing to do? It pulls us out of our own selfish concerns and connects us to something bigger. And here it is, part 3, and maybe the toughest of them all, the discipline of will. This is about embracing everything that happens that you can't control, and not just putting up with it, but willingly accepting it, as if you chose it. This is the ultimate freedom, learning to love your fate. So, what's the one thread that ties all of this together? The radical doubt of Nietzsche, the disciplined logic of the Stoics, and the quiet presence of Zen? It's the absolute, total importance of the present moment. Your power to see clearly, to act rightly, and to accept what is, it only exists right now. Marcus Aurelius uses this incredible metaphor to tell us, essentially, that the time for just thinking about this stuff is over. You've boarded the ship, you've made the journey, you've reached the shore. The next step isn't to read another book, it's to get out of the boat and actually start living it. And that brings the question right back to you. The old rules might be gone, but the tools to build a life of meaning and resilience are right here. They're in your hands. The materials are objective judgment, unselfish action, and willing acceptance. And the time to start building is now. So, how will you live?